Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Sharon Bown, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Captain Lisa Batchelor. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, would you please stand and join in singing the national anthem? For those requiring a seat, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Garth Francis Aitchison. Garth Aitchison was born in Brisbane on the 13th of January 1921, the eldest son of Angus and Sylvia Aitchison. Little is known of his early years. He grew up in Brisbane and went on to work as a clerk and accountant until listing in the Australian Army Medical Corps on the 13th of October 1941. After entering camp at Redbank, he began training in Tamworth in November. Aitchison became engaged to his sweetheart, Doreen Wilson, before being allotted to reinforcements to the 2nd 12th Field Ambulance in December. The 2nd 12th Field Ambulance would deploy personnel in support of combat operations against the Japanese on Ambon, Timor, and in Borneo. In doing so, it would have come to have the highest casualty rate of any non-combatant unit in the Australian Army. Aitchison's training on the job continued with a detachment to an Australian General Hospital in December. Later in the month, he was transferred to the Northern Territory. While camped at Winnerley, south of the RAF Darwin airfield, the 2nd 12th sent small groups of approximately 40 men to Timor and Ambon to support Sparrow and Gull forces. More groups followed after the earlier parties were captured by the Japanese. However, they were forced to return after their convoy came under heavy Japanese bombing attacks. Aitchison and his unit were at Winnerley during the Japanese bombing attacks on Darwin during the first half of 1942. In June, Aitchison was graded as a nursing orderly. In October, he was detached for further training, rejoining his unit the month after. In 1943, the 2nd 12th relocated to a camp near Wollongong in New South Wales. This provided Aitchison with an opportunity to marry Doreen Wilson on the 6th of February 1943. A few months later, on the 11th of May 1943, Aitchison embarked on the hospital ship Centaur, which was headed for Port Moresby to collect injured Australian soldiers. In addition to its crew of merchant seamen and members of the 212th Field Ambulance Unit, Centaur was carrying medical staff from the Royal Australian Army, nurses from the Australian Army Nursing Service, and Australian Army Service Corps ambulance drivers. In the early hours of the 14th of May 1943, the Centaur was northeast of Brisbane. The ship was well lit and clearly marked as a hospital ship, with red crosses and green lines painted on the hull, red crosses on the funnel and stem, and the Red Cross number that clearly identified her as a hospital ship. At approximately 4 a.m, Centaur was attacked by a Japanese submarine. The ship sank in less than 3 minutes. Of the 332 people aboard, there were only 64 survivors. Among the dead was Private Garth Francis Aitchison, who was 22 years old. With no grave but the sea, today he is commemorated at the Sydney Memorial in Rookwood Cemetery. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among more than 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Garth Francis Aitchison, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning,
We will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.